I always find this picture incredibly terrifying to look at because I know that these people don't exist anymore. I'm Alexandra Fazina. I'm a photographer and author, and I've been taking photographs, goodness, for more than 2 decades, so nearly 25 years. And I'm here to talk about my series of work, A Million Shillings, Escape from Somalia. When I began making the work, which was in 2007, we had thousands of people trying to escape from Somalia at the time. Most were escaping from conflict, from the war that in Mogadishu wasn't going on for 30 years. They were escaping from poverty, from climate change. So there was a huge flow of people, you could say, that were heading towards Yemen. One of the ways I sort of thought easiest perhaps to access the migrants and refugees who were travelling to Yemen was to find the safe houses and halfway houses. I couldn't just turn up at one because I'd probably be shot. So I had to track down the smugglers. The image here is of a smuggler called Omar. He took me to one of the safe houses where this picture was taken. It was very difficult to work and very awkward because this was really the case of being ushered in by somebody who the people in the room were all terrified by. I became aware that many of the women there were being sexually exploited, prostituted, then became the victims of human trafficking rather than just smuggling. Omar might tell me his sob story. Well, I was a fisherman. Because of the war, we can't go to sea anymore. So now he told me I'm helping the migrants and refugees so that they can have a better life, which is of course absolute nonsense because he has blood on his hands. He's responsible for so many deaths. The image here, it's of 128 of the migrants and refugees boarding one of the boats that will take them on the journey to Yemen. We see people literally locked into their fate. Each of the boats takes between 120 and 150 people, which is quite alarming really when you see the size of them. There's no space to move, there's no space to go to the toilet. If you do try to move, you will be thrown overboard. They won't tolerate anything. You can see that there's 2 men standing on the edge of the boat here. They're armed with hammers and knives and trying to get people on as quickly as they can in order to get away. You can see here that there's a woman and quite a young guy, maybe sort of teenager. They're really looking back to see what's happening to their friends. Some of the passengers, there were 4 of them, who were so terrified to actually board the boat, and the smugglers really weren't happy. They'd knelt them down in the sand and executed them and shot each one in the back of the head. Only 11 of them ever made it alive to Yemen. So this picture is taken on the southern seaboard of Yemen in a place called Bir Ali. And so these row of corpses are people that were dragged ashore by some of the other refugees. And I'd been camping on one of the beaches for a week and got a call about 1 o'clock in the morning to say that some boats had arrived, and suddenly sort of came across about 300 people. Many people were very, very ill. They were incredibly tired because they'd been at sea for 3 days. And I started to take some pictures in the car headlights, but we heard screaming coming from the sea. I just put down my camera and trying to help to drag people, essentially save lives. And it really was at this moment, before the sun came up, that really the horror of what had happened the night before became apparent. These are very young, fit men in the picture who you'd think would be very strong and definitely survive. And you realise that you don't really stand a better chance than anybody else making this journey. The thing that terrifies me about this picture is perhaps the light, because there is a sense of complete calmness and uniformity about how the bodies are lined up on the beach. And yet what I know from being there myself was that this scene of horror was also, it wasn't quiet. There was screaming going on. But the bodies, the best thing that can happen is that somebody can go to the beach with a shovel and literally just bury them in the sand. The beaches of Yemen, which are these beautiful, white and pale blue beaches of the Indian Ocean, all the time I was there, I was also very aware that they were also full of dead bodies. The sea is tremendously beautiful in a sense, despite all the dark secrets it hides. it still really haunts me whether somebody will ever be recognised and think, that's my son, or, yeah, that's my brother.